Welcome to the Run All Day podcast, where we explore the art and the science of endurance sports through the voices of athletes, coaches, and leaders pushing the sport forward. Today's episode features two passionate coaches who've dedicated their lives to running, both on and off the track. Coach Derek DeLancey. Coach Derek DeLancey leads the Delancey Loopers, working with adult distance runners while drawing on decades of competitive experience and a deeply rooted running family. We also have Coach Nate Rath from ACP, and he brings over 15 years of private coaching and more than 2 decades of racing experience. He specializes in developing the mental grit and race focus needed to master endurance performance, particularly in high school and youth athletes. Together, we'll dive into training philosophy, the evolution of the sport, mental strength, and how to build lasting relationships with running at every age. So let's get into it. All right. Hey, guys. How's it going?
How's it going? Good. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us. Doing well.
So what's been going on in your world, Coach, since the season's over?
Yeah, well, right now, some of them are taking a break or just getting off of a break. And then we have a few of our athletes doing the 4x8 Nationals in Oregon. So we just started practice for that this week, yesterday, in fact.
Nice.
And then some of our sprinters and jumpers and other people as well are going to that. So
still the training continues.
Yeah, I know. It's a continuous grind. It's hard because as a cross-country coach, too, I'm like, let's kind of switch gears and focus and build to that. But at the same time, they really want to go to nationals, and it will be fun. So it's tricky training, but making it happen, making it work.
Yeah, because you got that transition where people are wanting to extend the track season, but then they're also then you have others who are also wanting to build that cross-country base. So find that balance between the two. And Derek, how you doing?
Good. Yeah, my kids just got done with the high school season, and they're doing the same. They're both going to Nike, so they took a short break and back into training.
Yeah, Tylee's mad at me because I didn't get her on the sign-up list quick enough, so she's on a wait list right now. So, yeah, she's pretty upset with
For the middle school mile?
Yeah, for the middle school mile. So we'll just get right into it. So we'll talk about the origins of coaching, evolution, but how did you, Derek, first fall in love with running?
So I played tennis growing up, and I played tennis in college at Weber State in Utah. And I met my wife there, and she was a runner. So I started, when we were dating, started going to the track meets. And I thought I was a pretty good runner for a tennis player. Didn't know much about it, but I could run a mile in like 5:30 and 2 miles in maybe like 12 minutes. And then I started watching the meets, and I was like, oh my gosh, people are running, low 4-minute miles, like 5Ks in like 14 minutes. So I was just like enamored, wanted to find out how that was possible. Started looking at like the world records and then started reading books on physiology and getting into it, and just wondered how humans could run like that far, that fast.
Yeah, I think I look at my own journey, and I think with mine, it was my uncle who did trail running. And I was wearing, I think, DC shoes and board shorts, and I went to his house, and he was like, hey, you want to go do a hike at Wind Cave? And so we did the hike, and on the way back, he was like, do you want to run down it? And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And I think this instantly I fell in love with trail after that. And you, Coach?
My friend got me into it. I was a senior in high school, and I did football and also tennis before that, and various other sports, but I didn't want to do football again. So cross country was another option. My friend had done it the year before. I was like, you should just do cross country. It'll be fun. Hang out together. I was like, all right, I'll try. It sounds very boring. But once I started running, I ran that summer to prepare for it a little bit, because I didn't want to get my socks knocked off. So fell in love with it. I was like, dude, this is sweet. It's just a pure sport, no equipment. You just need your shoes and maybe not even do barefoot. But I just loved it. Yeah.
Yeah, we had a runner here on when he showed up to us and was a complete barefoot runner. Never had any official training, but he wears shoes now.
So. Did you say that was Tay?
Yeah. So he's actually coming over to train with me for my endurance strength training too. So I picked him up as another athlete who he starts today.
He's going to be a really good runner. I mean, he is a good runner now. He's in high school. He's going to be really good.
Unfortunately, I can't get him to come to my school. He's already set in where he's going to go. But with Huron and developing athletes, we go where they take us, and we will provide that support for them. In what ways has your approach to coaching changed over the years?
I think I mean, at the nuts and bolts of it, it's the same. It's knowing your athlete, loving your athlete, and getting to know them and how to respond to them and what helps them the most, what upsets them, what works for them, what doesn't work for them. But in general, I think when I first started coaching, I had more of the mentality of the more is better and just grind. Mm-hmm. And as I coach more and more, and just personally too, it's just the power of recovery. And I would say now I lean more towards almost someone that's want to get them a little undertrained rather than overtrained.
And you coach obviously at ACP, but you also coach adult athletes as well, right?
Yes, yes.
And Derek, how has that coaching philosophy changed for you over the years?
I would say the exact same thing. At first, you want everything. You have a plan. You want everything to go 100%. You want every workout to be good for an athlete. But now you'd rather be 95% and healthy mentally and physically, because in the marathon especially, you have to be excited to go through that pain cave for 3 hours. So if you're at all dinged up or you're just burned out, it's not going to go well, no matter like how fit you are. You can fake it in some of the shorter distances, but the longer stuff, you got to be fresh, motivated, hungry. So yeah, you got to be it's better to be a little undercooked than 1% overcooked.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember my days when I first started. I think I started with Pete Pittsfinger's Advanced Marathoning book.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was the first book. Yeah, Dan Beaver's in that book, because every time I read it, I've read it more than once. And every time I come across that page, I take a picture of it and send it to Dan, and he cracks up every time. It was just good timing. I thought he was actually in the book. But going back to that philosophy, if I missed my easy run on Thursday, I always felt like I had to make it up instead of just going with the flow. Or if I missed that speed workout, I would double back speed workouts. And I think early in my running career, obviously I wasn't as elite as the kids that were coaching by far. I was an adult athlete, but I found myself getting injured a lot because I was double stacking those hard days, not taking recovery as seriously as I could, and just pushing through pain when I probably should have rested.
Yeah.
With each of the things that you guys do, Derek, I'll direct this to you, but how do you balance coaching with your own running and competing?
Well, nowadays I don't compete too much anymore, but when I was, things I would do would be doing a workout myself beforehand, making sure that the paces and the rest were correct. And then I coached enough people I could always jump in a workout with people and design it around what I needed. So that's how I'd balance that. But I would just do things super early in the morning or late in the afternoon to make time for the athletes and that type of stuff, or just do part of their runs with them.
Yeah, that sounds like Paul a little bit. Practice will be at 5 a.m. and Paul's already got his workout done at
2:30 a.m. Yeah, I used to do 2:30 runs, but
I know he messaged me a few times. And he's like, "Hey, I'll be up at 4 o'clock if you want to join." And I'm like, "I'm semi-retired right now." I took a different path. I think once I started coaching high school and then coaching club, and then on top of some other side jobs that I have now, someone once told me it's like just about movement. So I kind of taken that approach as adult, where I'll lift 3-4 days a week, run. I don't want to say what my running mileage has been. It's been about 15 miles a week, and then I bike. I commute all the time too. And Nate, you coach a lot of high-level athletes, and you're a high-level runner yourself. So how do you balance that as well?
Yeah, no, it's tough. Sometimes the same as what Derek's saying. You just have to get up and get your workout in. But honestly, a lot of times it's training with the athletes I coach. The tricky part is if you're not getting enough hard work in, you got to fit it in somewhere else. But there is a lot of opportunities for cross country. I found it pretty easy to get workouts in. In fact, I was probably a little bit overtrained towards the end because working out with them and then maybe a couple other private sessions with adults later. If they were to do a tempo run, I'm okay, we're going to do, all right, stay up with me, or I'm running with you and just make it happen. And it's fun because they like that when it helps them
like to
work
beat the
together.
old guy.
I go, keep up with the old guy, come on.
Kind of my strategy with the Williamsville kids is obviously I'm not as fast as they are anymore, so I do half sets. So if they're doing 800s, I'll knock out 400.
Yes, that's
or
good.
If Brandon's at Huron and he's doing 400, I'll maybe can keep up for 200 or 150. We'll see.
And then talk trash now.
Yeah. I did beat him in a 200 one time.
When he was doing an 800.
Yeah. No, he was all cooked already after
Yeah.
a long workout, and I sandbagged the entire thing. And on the
Nice.
last 200, I snuck up to the line on lane 1 and just took off. And
Nice.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I beat him or not, but I say I did. So we talked a little bit about summer plans and building plans for cross country and track. And so looking at that is when you're designing a training plan, whether it's for adults or for youth, what are the key pieces you always include or like to include?
So mostly I train marathoners. So obviously the most important part is the long run. I like to do workouts within a long run that simulate the feelings you're going to get in a marathon. So out of that, I do stress recovery days. A lot of people go too fast. That's what the most common mistake is for adults, is because they are hard workers and they got a coach and they're excited and they do every day like sort of similar. So I really try and slow them down, make sure their intense days are higher and their easy days are very easy. So really stressing those recovery days. But yeah, long runs are the most important part for marathon or half marathon. It's probably that and recovery runs.
Yeah, and then for Williamsfield track this season, I wrote my plan, and definitely I think of athletes when you say the top are collaborating more than competing against each other to make each other better. And I feel like the same thing with coaching. For me, at least, it's because I learned a lot from Coach Rick Carr, but I've also learned a ton from you, and am grateful for that experience of you sitting down with me at the beginning of track season, looking over my plan for the athletes. And I don't look at Williamsfield's success that we had this year as an Andrew thing. It was Coach Paul, Coach Crystal Brown, and then you helping out with the plan. So just appreciate that knowledge that you put into others as well, instead of being like, I have all this knowledge, I'm just going to keep it.
No, yeah, we collaborate all the time. Nate and I specifically, texting all the time. Workouts, what do you think about this one? Because I'm not always right. Sometimes he'll look at it and be like, oh, what if we change this? Or like, and then he has athletes that I actually run with. So like he'll be like, what do you think about this for this guy? So yeah, we go back and forth all the time. Just helps.
Well, I'm going to have to add you on the chat feed too, all three of us, and then get some consultation there as well. So directing that same question to you is, when designing a training plan, what are pieces that you like to include?
Yeah, I mean, long run is huge for endurance training. It's definitely a needed component. And it depends. And Derek, it depends what they're training for and when that race is and what part of the year what is. And that depends on how long their long run will be and like how much tempo running or how much hill work, whatever it might be. But for right now, for the high school, for example, I just made a plan, and summer training is a huge component of how well they're going to do in cross country. So they need to build a consistent, solid aerobic base that they can carry that to the cross country season. And yes, there's going to be a little bit of work, but once again, it's not a lot. I call it sprinkle it with some hard stuff. Mm-hmm. You got hill sprints, strides, you got progression runs. Tempos, start to introduce those in like late June. And once again, summer training is about consistency, putting in the solid training, solid work, the good miles, but not overdoing it, because you cannot go into cross-country season, your first race, and being like, okay, I've had enough, because it's not going to work out well.
Or peaking out early in the season.
Yeah.
I think you covered a few questions that I had between mileage, intensity, and recovery, but what are some of the most common training mistakes you see when coaching athletes at the high school level? And then we'll move on to the adult after that.
I mean, I think Derek can probably attest, it's just too much, like overtraining, working too hard on some of the sets. I've coached enough that you can prescribe certain paces and people just want to try to beat them. In high school, they're a little bit more immature and like don't know enough to be like, okay, this pace is what I should do. And you got this group mentality, and sometimes they like to race each other and stuff. So I'm over there yelling, this is not a race. It takes maturity, but also like experience too, knowing like, okay, I don't need to run fast all the time and try to beat my teammates or try to do a really fast 400 at the end. because there's way more benefit to just consistently be putting in some solid work, not racing and sprinting all the time.
Yeah, same thing. Adults are funny because if you give a pace, let's just say I gave a rep was a mile at 6:30. If the person hits 6:31, they think they failed, and they're like, text me like, sorry, coach, I missed that one. It's like,
failed the workout.
Yeah, you were way off. No, just the same sort of thing. Running too hard, like hard on easy days, last one, fast one, just everything that leads to too much. And like one of the most dangerous places you can be is actually when you feel amazing, because that's when you'll be like, 6:30 pace felt really easy. I'll just crank it down to 6:20 on this one. And then, I'm feeling really good after the workout yesterday. On my easy pace, I'll go 1 mile further and 10 seconds faster than normal because you get greedy. So it all leads to greed. Yeah. And then that's when people get hurt. And then you can't train at all.
And I think about athletes with racing as well. So you have an athlete that's maybe a female athlete that's a 210, 215, 800, and they're not hitting that. They're hitting 216, 217, then they pop off that 214 or maybe hit 215 again. And they're upset because they're not seeing this big progression. But what we always try to say with Rick and I is like, as long as the dots are hitting. And I think Jennifer McCann stresses that as well, is as long as the dots are hitting near that area and you're not popping off like a 225, that you're eventually going to have that breakthrough if you're doing that. But the same thing with training is you call out 65s for 400s for some of the boys, and then they're coming in sub 60. Yeah. And then doing it over and over again, and then they get tired for the meet. I think one of the challenging points for me this year, maybe you guys can help maybe bolster what I was trying to do, but easy runs and easy recovery. Not easy runs in, as far as like an easy run, but getting your warm-up in. So 15 minutes and then a 10-minute. For like this year was like pulling teeth for me to just get that warm-up in and then that cool down, just to build up that easy mileage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's probably too, like, just if that's new to the kids, then they're probably fighting back. But yeah, all easy running helps your training. It helps your aerobic system. So that's one thing you can almost not get too much of, is easy running. I mean, obviously you get up to 100 miles a week, but like adding in 5 to 8 extra miles a week of easy running through warm up or just adding a mile, like slow, it's great for you.
I agree.
Yeah, that's what I told. I mean, a couple of my athletes, They always want to do a little more. Should I add an extra run? And one of the things I pressed back on was, well, if you actually, because a lot of times they'll cut their cool down short. And a lot of times they're running against time, so it's not always their fault. But I'm like, well, if we would have got an extra mile cool down, that's 5-6 miles a week. So you'd have no problem getting extra miles. You don't need to do an extra run.
Yeah. And one of the things that Paul and Crystal and I, when we were getting ready to taper, and it was funny because I think one workout we did something like 300s with a 150 in between, and then started lowering it. And then the athletes were like, "We're done." It's like, yeah, we're not going hard anymore. We're not. That was the reason why we were doing that early on, is so then that way we could focus on that speed and dialing it in.
Yeah, just say taper is tough though, but especially for kids, you never want to screw it up. I'm not coaching kids, but like even with the marathoners, you want to keep the intensity, lower the volume, so that they're still getting that turnover and stuff, but you're just cutting the volume down so the legs have pop. And
moving on to the next question here is, Nate, you often talk about mastering the middle of the race. Why is that moment so important?
Yeah, that's kind of been my thing for the last few years, is the middle of the race. And the middle it can be as long as 1.5 miles for a 5K. It can be as long as 20 miles for a marathon. Usually not that long, but it's just this period in the middle of the race where your mind can kind of go wherever. Doubt can creep in. Anything can happen. Pain that you might not have been expecting shows its ugly face, and you got to get through it. And I think it's just, if you look at, let's just take high school 5K running, for example, and Derek and I were even talking about this over the weekend. I would say 90%, it's probably higher. 5K runners in high school, the first mile, a little bit too fast, and then they slow down for the next 1.5 miles. And then you'll always have something that last quarter mile, usually. to kick it in hard. So it's just getting that middle of the race to where you don't fall off and you just maintain that pace. But I tell my athletes, and I'm really key on this, in that it feels like, and the problem is, you feel like you're going the same pace, but because it hurts more, I mean, you're slowing down. So if you ever feel like you're going the same pace, usually you're fading off. So most of the time I tell them, if you go the same pace in a high school 5K race, you're going to be passing a lot of people because they just fade. And a lot of it is, some of them haven't raced that much and it's unexpected. But even for experienced 5K runners in high school, the fade in the middle it happens. And a lot of times unconsciously, and it's just all of a sudden, shoot, I slow down. And then they're grappling, trying to get that back.
And I think that goes a little bit back to the training philosophy, is going too hard because your teammates are going up faster and you want to keep up with them. So when people start popping off that first mile, they don't want to be left behind. Right. And they want to be able to stick with that group. I know a lot of runners that I've coached have done that, including my daughters, and trying to get them to be like, it's okay to let that lead group go out and then just start maintaining and picking them off as you maintain that pace and push through when everyone else is fading.
Yeah.
So Derek, transitioning to you, how do you help runners push through the mental fatigue, especially with busy lives of adults or athletes, all the things that go with that? So what do you train your runners how to push through that mental fatigue?
Well, they have to give themselves grace. So like as an adult, you can have a bad day with kids, a bad day at work. There's so many things that can get in your way. So like missing a day is okay. Running 4 instead of 6 because that's all you had time for is okay. They need to be excited about what they're doing. So if you have too many times in a row where you're feeling like I had to do it, like just making sure they have a day off, a shorter run, that's fine because life is bigger than just running. So running's just one little part of it. You got to make sure that they're enjoying it and not to get down or like you said, like feel like you got a double stack. Like, no, it's okay. Like take your day off. Like you missed one run, no big deal. So I'm okay with them missing days and life happens. So.
Yeah, I have a few of my run all day athletes that are going camping this weekend, and the parents were like, do you want to write them a workout that they could do while they're camping? And I'm like, go hike. Yeah. Spend some time with your family. Like we have all summer to build. Like missing 3 days of strength training isn't going to make or break your season.
Yeah.
What are some tools or tactics you both use to build race day confidence? I think a lot of athletes, especially at the high school level, they hit those times in training. And we as coaches know that they're ready and know that they can hit these certain times or certain benchmarks. But when it comes to race day, it's like either the mind crumbles or something else happens, life happens, and something gets in the way. So what are some tools that you guys both use to help athletes mentally get over some of those hurdles?
Well, I think you hit like a key one is workouts before and making sure they understand you hit this workout, trust me, you can do this in the race. Because a lot of times you'll have maybe 4 by a mile at a certain pace, and they're like, how can I do that for 3 miles in a row? And I'm like, you'll just be able to. It comes from experience. Derek and I experience in that regard, but also that's just the way the body works. When you're at the race and game time, you usually have it. And knowing your athlete too, sometimes for some people, anxiety or whatever it might be at the race time, it is harder for them. So knowing that can help too. But other times, athletes are just game time, show up. It didn't matter what they did in practice. They just go get it done. So, but yeah, that's one thing there.
Do you have anything, Derek?
No, similar to what Nate said, there's certain workouts that are predictor workouts, which over time they just always work. If you can hit it in practice, then you're going to be within this range for a race. So like hearing that, the athletes were like, okay, like he believes in me. Other than that, having a plan within the race, like first couple miles do this, then you're not focusing on like a time exactly per se. I mean, in the marathon, pace is super important, so that's got to play a factor. But like having a plan that's not all based on like time. I'm going to do this here. I'm going to do this here. I'm going to take my gel here. Like things like that just help take the mind off the end result and then focus on the process within the race. So it gives confidence that I have a plan and I know what I'm going to do. We'll see what the outcome is.
Yeah. And the thing to add to that is I tell them, like, the pain's going to come. So don't be shocked. It's going to come. So don't be surprised. Embrace it. And at some point, you just have to get through that. And I tell the athletes, think about the end of the race, just how good it's going to feel when they did push through that. And that's what gets me going is that, look, 10 minutes later, 5 minutes later, longer if it's a longer race, like I'm going to look back, and if I did not push through that pain, I'm going to regret it. And I call that like the pain of regret. And that's worse than the pain you go through in that race, because you got to live with that forever. And not saying you need to get over a performance if you didn't do as well, but that pain to me is worse than the pain you have to push through.
Yeah, I have a pain of regret of my own. Is I was doing Mesa Marathon, and I was in 250 shape probably, and got to mile 22, and someone walked in front of me for how you catch back up to the 10Kers and the half marathoners. So individual walked in my path, and we hit, and my calves just went, and I just focused on the calves the entire time instead of being like, what can I do to push past this pain? And ended up dropping 1:30 for the last 4 miles on top of everything I was doing. And it didn't go too well is what I predicted. But thinking about mindset, like how important is having a strong mindset for performance for athletes?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, I think really important, and I can't speak to sprinting and other things and even other sports, but like endurance running, because your mind is so, like you just have a lot of time to think. So your mind can do a lot of things in there, and doubt can creep in, like I just said before. But I think it just comes from belief. If in your mind, if you believe that you can do it, that is first and foremost, like that's what you need. And it's more important than all the training lining up perfect, your rest, your nutrition, all very important. But if you don't believe you can do it, all those things are going to come to nothing.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think also like within that, like mantras are important too. Like like Nate said, the pain's always going to come, but what do you tell yourself when it does come to get you through the hard times? But one thing I like to say is, who are you? And there's only one answer that I will accept, and I'm the guy who's going to tough this out. Like, so I just don't stop.
Yeah. And building on that is, what do you say to an athlete after a tough race or a training setback?
It's always a good time to use as a learning experience. Why did it not go well? What can we do different in training? What could you do different with pacing, fueling? Let's look at whatever we can so next time we can do better. So I just use it as a learning experience. I mean, everybody has a bad race or a bad workout, but races are a good time to look at what we can do differently. There's always another race, so learning experience.
Yeah, and it just brings out the athletes. They're teachable. They take that, they run with it, and they learn from it, and they change. It's all about changing some things, fine-tuning things, whether it's a race tactic or maybe the training itself, or maybe the mindset, whatever it might be. But once again, it goes back to knowing your athletes. Some people can get over a bad performance quick. Other people cannot. And we've coached many athletes over the years, and even with the high school team, a lot of different personalities. And the more you get to know them, what they need. But it's tough. Sometimes you don't know right away when you first get to know someone. Then eventually over time, you figure out what they need to hear to move on, because they do need to move on, however that works for them.
Yeah, and I know on this podcast I've harped a lot about Highland's Brandon Delancey, but coaching him in the past, and there's a lot of athletes out there, but I know him specifically, is I've never known an athlete that can get over a race immediately and just be ready to move on to the next one. Yeah. And it's like, how do you teach that in other people? Like, he can go and not run the mile that he wants to run, but then he comes back to the group and he's like, yeah, that I stunk it up and here's what I need to do. And then he's focused on the next race. And it's trying to get athletes to get in that same mindset, to just not dwell on certain performances. That we had one athlete at Williamsfield who's been stuck, and also a Huron athlete, but they've been stuck at 230 for about 2 years now. And just recently at USATF this weekend, knocked out a 227.
Nice.
So all these years of like 230, 231, 232, 230, 231, and then It didn't happen in the high school season, but boom, that 227, and just to see those tears of joy and
that's great.
and know that you can do it. And now a lot of people hit that benchmark and then they never look back.
Yeah, it's like
the
ceiling just popped a hole.
Yeah,
New
that
ceiling.
breakthrough. Yeah.
So how do you foster long-term motivation, especially in a sport that can feel like a grind?
No, that's tough. I mean, you have to constantly tell them, like, this is a long term, we're talking years, and most of them want to continue to run for years. So it's like, okay, we're having goals that are, a couple months out, 1 year out, 2 year out, end of your high school, college, collegiate, whatever it might be. So like, this is a long haul in the same direction. And there's a lot of little changes or little improvements along the way. And sometimes there's a big one, and sometimes there's a setback. But in general, like you mentioned before, that progression line is getting faster. And yes, there's going to be plateaus. And yes, there's going to be setbacks. But in general, when you put in the consistent, quality, good work, you will improve. And sometimes it does take longer than you want. Many times, maybe months, couple years. I mean, honestly, we have ideas and maybe reasons why it's happening, and we can pinpoint those. But sometimes you just don't know. Like, it's not happening yet. Stay committed, stay faithful, believe, and it will. It just, sometimes it's longer than we want it to be.
And when I look at the progression of my own daughters, because when I came into the game with club, I was just an adult runner, didn't really have much coaching experience, and wanted my daughter to be 8-year-old national champion.
Yeah.
And Rick had to pull me back a little bit and be like, you can't take this game so serious at this age. And it really helped me, because I don't want to knock on any of our Huron parents now, but sometimes I try to subtly say that to them, is where you have an athlete that's an 8 and under or a 9-10, and they're knocking out already 25, 30 miles a week. And so if it wasn't for Rick, he's really helped guide me to help guide my daughters better. And then working with Derek, Jen McCann, Paul and Crystal, like, we don't look at it as individual coaches. We kind of look at it as like the athlete has a team of people that's there to consult in all different areas. And with Tylee, we built her up little by little. So this year we maxed her out at about 25 miles, and we'll increase that as she gets into high school. And she was upset because she was dealing with anemia but didn't hit her times that she wanted this year. And I was just like, Tylee, no one's going to care what you do in 8th grade.
No,
So,
yeah.
I know it's like, it means something to you, but you're a gamer. You go out, you're consistent, you do everything that you need to do. It's gonna happen.
Yeah, it's tough with the kids. Like, you're living in that moment, and you want your kids to be really good. And like, my son Brandon used to do club soccer, and it just felt so important. The tryouts would come, and you'd hear this kid got on this team, and all the parents are like texting, "What team did you get on?" And it's like, feels like the most important thing in the world. And like, now he doesn't even play soccer. I get that feeling from a parent, but yeah, you need to have, like, zoom out. It's 9, 10 years old. It's not the time to have a pro athlete.
I agree. Knowing both of you guys promote a lot of culture and community, and I think that's what makes you guys both really strong coaches, is not only do you have the knowledge of running, but you're good people, you're good humans, and you foster that with your athletes. So what does team culture look like in your coaching spaces, whether that's a group of adults or a high school team?
We, Coach Shea, Coach Julie Swanson, and I mean, we're constantly just being like, this is a team, sport. It can feel very individualistic at times, and, this is the time I want to get. This is what I want to do. I. But in track can really feel like that at times. But a lot of times we're like, well, for the betterment of the team, we want to run the 4x8 because we can put points up, that type of thing. And they might not want to do that as much as, I'm going to do 1 mile and try to beat my PR. But in general, at practices and things like that, it's run together, stay together, train together. You're pushing each other to make the team better. And the more and more you do that in practice, the more and more it's going to show up game time and throughout the whole process. But that's extremely important, because it's good just for them in life. Like, life is about other people and helping each other along the way. And track and cross country is no different. it's making sure that they understand and are aware of that. And it's hard to do at times because can be an individualistic sport because you're not back and forth between team players on the field. You go out there and sometimes you're by yourself in a race. But the more and more you can help each other.
And you have an athlete that I've seen grow up in his 7th and 8th grade years. He had some setbacks and some injuries, Sam Stokes.
Okay, yeah.
And just to see the year that he had this year, and I don't know what clicked, whatever you were doing over there, it was just great to see that success that he had.
The great thing about Sam, and not just Sam, but the guys and the girls in general, they just bought in to what Coach Shea, Coach Julie, and I were saying, and that all the cross-country training, all the summer training, all this, because Sam really, he loves track, but he's got to do cross-country first, and he's got to do summer training. I'm like, all this endurance training will translate to speed in track. Trust me. And he trusted me from the beginning. And a lot of those guys did. And because of it, they were constantly working together, pushing each other. And we've talked a lot about, like, make sure you don't overtrain, rather have undertrain. And that's very important. But trust me, there's a time and place where you got to work hard. And when it comes to the cross-country season, we were doing a lot of hard hill tempo workouts, and it was a grind. But I don't know, but he's told me personally that in the past he just hasn't done a lot of endurance training, and just by adding that component to him and even a lot of the other guys just really brought their times down. And I kept telling them, and in cross country when their times were getting faster, they're just continuing to believe. But I'm like, trust me, because a lot of them want to do the 800 the mile. This is going to translate to fast 800 and mile times.
I'm glad you said that, and I'm looking at the clock right now to mark that because I have a specific athlete that wants to run a 220 800 next year on the female side, but necessarily doesn't want to run cross country and just wants to start when track starts.
Yeah.
And so I think we convinced them this year to do cross country, but they're not going to start until the school season starts because I messaged the parents and was like, hey, here's the summer information. Mm-hmm. We're going to be building up that endurance and building up that backup engine. And I was just told that they were just going to start when school starts. And that will help them in track too. I mean, cross country is not their focus, but I was hoping to get them out for the culture, the community, and then just I'm a firm believer too that you will be a better 800 and a miler if you have that aerobic engine from cross country.
Because the 800 is not all anaerobic.
It's like 50-50.
Yeah, it's aerobic too. And if you lack that aerobic capacity, you're not going to reach the fastest time that you could.
With Derek, with the athletes you coach, what keeps your athletes coming back, not just for races, but for the process?
I think everybody wants to see in the end how good they can be if they do this, that, and the other, train hard. Once that question is answered, maybe then they don't come back. But, I mean, we've got a good community, so there's always, like, everyone's friends. There's people you can jump in workouts. I would say that pursuit of self-excellence is what keeps people coming back. You always think you can do a little bit better next time. So that's probably the main thing. Most of the people I coach are pretty type A, and so they want to see what they can do next, and it doesn't stop.
How many athletes would you say that you're coaching right now?
I would say about 15. Most
Nice.
I've had is I got up to like 30, 35 at one time. I did not like it because I lost like the ability to connect at that level where I was a good coach. So you actually get worse as a coach if you have too many people and you don't like know by heart someone's workout, and then you're like, oh darn, like I forgot to check in with so-and-so. So I found like 15 is a really good number. And then even when I don't coach people come to our group all the time. Like, it's not, if you're not coached by me, you can't come type of thing. So, I mean, I've got people I used to coach 10 years ago come out, or people come out that I don't coach and they just want to run with some new people. So
that's awesome. I think for my goal, I'm going to have to tap into your guys' resources because I told my daughters for cross country, I at least want to get back into like 18-minute pace or 18 flat. And so I'm going to need a plan because I know that if I write the plan, I'm going to skip myself in certain areas.
Got to get it early.
Yeah. I know.
In the summer.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, with Williamsfield, I think we're going to be doing summer training at 5 a.m. So I told Paul that I'll start adjusting my body back for that on June 1st. I'm trying to be better at getting sleep. I do a lot of my editing at night and working on certain things, but I need to definitely, like you said, find that balance between overdoing it, whether it's work or running, and then being able to be an efficient coach as well. Going into youth running in the bigger picture, so Nate, with your work at the high school level, what trends are you seeing in youth running today?
I think in general, well, one trend is that the access they have for other people's workouts are just insane. I'm not on Strava or anything. I'm like,
I tell Nate what kids are doing.
Exactly. But they see other people's workouts and they're like, we need to do this. I need to do this exact workout. And that's going to be that magic thing that brings me from a 204 to a 159, 800, for example. It's good that there's a lot of information out there, but it's almost, it can be a negative thing too, in the fact that if they think that what this person is doing is exactly what I need to be doing. And you have things like double threshold runs, for example. That's what they've been talking about. Can we do double threshold runs? Well, how many years have you been running? Okay, 2? No.
Yeah.
And so it's just this constant giving them feedback on sticking to the plan. And eventually, yes, you can be doing some of these other things, but maybe not now. And some people are ready for whatever you might see on the internet, but it just depends. And they'll see something like a really hard workout, and it's like, well, that's not the time of year where we need to be doing it right now.
Yeah, and I think communication is key with your coaches too. So as long as you're communicating, like maybe I'm not giving an athlete what they need to, I need to give them a little bit more, but communicate that with me instead of going through other channels.
Yeah, I would say times are improving so quick right now. It's kind of crazy. Now everyone's got all the super spikes, and then like Nate said, you can see what other kids are doing. So like maybe back in the day, the kids don't even know this now, but like you could see like a newspaper article about some kid who ran a fast time, and that was like a month ago. Well, now exactly what kids are running, like the second they run it. And so when you can actually see it, you can believe it. And especially if it's in your whatever rival school or somewhere nearby, so you're like, oh, that kid ran that, I can do that. So then it just filters all the way down, and then everyone starts running fast.
That's a good point. And it's good. They see it, they believe it. That goes back to the belief, and love that. And our thing at like ACP and me in general is just, if I have an athlete that hustle and hungry, that's my 2 words, they can go a lot of places. You give me that type of athlete, and they could be average, they could be just new, they could be whatever. That's the kind of athlete I love working with, and that can go places. So I'm all for, and our athletes are very respectable. They see a workout, coach, can we do something like this? If I'm like, we're going to do something else, like, okay, that's fine. But so I love it because I know they're researching, they're out there looking, they're a student of the game. Mm-hmm. So I love that spirit about them because I know that they're hungry and they want to work. And a lot of times that can be dangerous too, in that they want to work too hard, but it's just honing that back. In general, I'd rather have that athlete that is out there looking and can see everything, and they're willing to go the extra mile.
I think that's what I really like about my run all day fitness that I do on the side. I make sure that the athletes were working on plyometrics and endurance focus workouts, but also the timing of that too. Is rest days should be rest days. Yeah. And so what I try to get the athletes to do is, if they have a hard workout in the AM or the PM, is to then double with their strength workout that day, or whether it's focused on core or legs. And so with that, I get to dial in the paces a little bit. So I know my CAA athlete, he's working with the coach that's never coached before. He jokes around that when he's doing his long runs, the coach drives in a car around this campus that we're at right now. So I love that coach is dedicated and learning as well. But I get to work with Nate, and Coach Rick gets to work with Nate on dialing in his paces and dialing in what he should be doing, and that he executes it. He has no one else to run with, so he has to execute it all on his own. And I commend an athlete like that because he's seen so much growth. I made an Instagram post about him the other day. He went from 242 to 205 from 8th grade to sophomore year since he's been training with Huron.
Nice.
And then his mile, I think he went 447. Is that what it was? I don't know. Yeah, I usually look at Derek because
he knows all the stats.
I remember when he broke 5. But
Yeah, I think he ended up going 4:47, but he started off as like a 5:42 miler. So
There
to
you
almost
go.
knock a minute off in 2 years, but the kid is just consistent. He's
Yes.
consistent. He's humble. He knows how to get over a race and focus on the next race. And I think the sky's the limit for him. His 32, he wants to focus on. I guess whenever he did the CAA championships, they put 40 people in the 32. So they combined 7th grade, 8th grade, and all divisions at the high school level. So he said multiple times he had to run out in like lane 4.
Well, it's congested, and then if you start lapping people too, yeah, it can be
Yeah,
really
so
hard to run in. Yes.
I forgot what his 32 time was, but he wasn't happy with that. But he's never
Yeah.
ran it before as well. So I just look at athletes like that who, like you said, put in the work and really are a student of the game and want to improve to get to where they need to go. Derek, so from your perspective, working with adults or even athletes, because you have 2 high-level athletes yourself, what keeps them motivated to run long-term?
Well, kind of like I said before, the like self-excellence, goals, PRs, people are always chasing that. In general, running makes you feel good for most people. So people long-term like to exercise, feel good. But I mean, my kids, yeah, they're just trying to always set a new goal, PR. Adults are like that too. But like I said earlier, like, if I did everything and I did it for a couple years or 5 years, 3 years, whatever, how good can I get? I did that myself. And so at the end, when I stopped training seriously, I was pretty satisfied because there was no, what if I did this? Like I did it all. And so I can feel good that I got the most out of myself.
You say training seriously. So how many miles a week do you get right now?
About 50.
Okay.
Well, there was a time when I was 80 to 90, but
I think when I was doing marathons, I was 50 to 60 right there. So you're running my current mileage. I think you and I have talked about this offline, but we both have athletes in the game right now. How tough is it to know, but then also try to translate that to your own child? Do they want to listen to your advice? Do they push back? And I'm just talking experience from mine because I'll even say like, hey, Derek told me this. Like, that's how I have to win arguments in my house. Or Coach Rick said this.
It's so tough. Yeah, if what you just said, if it comes from me, it's usually not taken very well. It's super tough because you're trying to give advice that you think's right, but I mean, it's just that's the parent-kid dynamic. Try not to be too involved. I mean, they've got coaches. On the way to the state meet, I was trying to give Brandon some advice because it was hot and windy, and he told me to shut up. I don't care about the wind, and sure enough, he led the first K, and that didn't go well. I kind of like that he says, I got it. I don't need your advice. But, yeah, it's tough. You want them to succeed. You want to help them. But, yeah, you just don't want to bug them and have that relationship kind of blurred. So try to be as hands-off as possible. Brandon makes it pretty clear to get out of his space. I give Cameron more advice, but, yeah, you don't want to – I don't like being too involved. It's not that healthy.
Yeah, and I love that you trust me and have that autonomy where I can get on Brandon a little bit. So if I need to kind of bring him back to earth or just even words of motivation, seeing Cameron out there, like she's, I think, poised for a huge year next year. And Logan Stanley also talked about that from the Arizona Republic, was that he was happy that Brandon led that race like that. Like he was like, that was gutsy. He made it an honest race. And yeah, he may have faded a little bit, but you can't coach someone to go out and do that.
Yeah, well, I did tell him not to. But
You did. You can coach them to do that. They just might not listen. No, I love that about Brandon. Is he's just very gutsy and just goes out front and just says, all right, here we go. Hang on if you can.
Now, the other day, this kind of funny story about that, but he asked for a workout. Him and Tristan were going to do a workout on Monday, but there was no Huron. So I was like, I'll give you guys a little workout. And he's like, no, I don't want any workout from you. It's got to come from Rick. So Rick was busy. I talked to him at the meet real quick, but he didn't get back with a workout. So I made one up, and Brandon's like, this is from Rick, right? I'm like, yeah, yes, it is. And then they start doing it. He's like, we usually don't have this type of rest, this short rest. And then he's like, Dad, this is your workout, isn't it? And I just no comment.
Just smile.
What's funny about that is Malia wanted a workout a couple weeks ago, and so I sent her a workout, and she asked the same thing. She goes, "Did Coach Rick send this?" And so I said no, and I messaged Rick, and so Rick sent me an email with a workout for her, and she ended up doing that. Rick's been their coach forever, and he just has a way of getting the best out of athletes. I think about the yin and yang is Rick's a little bit more reserved, and then I'm more just out there. And so I think we're a good balance, but I think that's the importance also as well of working with specialty coaches and knowing that you have an athlete that they just want you to be dad. And I've had to learn that the hard way, and I still learn it the hard way, where the girls are like, I don't want to talk about running at home. Tylee, she loves it so much. I mean, Malia does as well, but I could talk to Tylee about it. I've been her personal coach longer. She won a state championship with the CAA in 7th grade, and that was a Huron-based plan that was infused with some things that I wanted to do as well. But I just wanted to give a plug out to Coach Jennifer McCann, who is a performance coach. And I know people think about, well, I'm the head coach of my program, and nobody should be going and doing outside stuff. But I would say that this year, mentally, both of my girls have flourished under working with Coach Jen McCann. I don't get into the details because that's what I want her to do, is I want her to be that medium for me, so that way I don't have to have those conversations, so Jen can have those conversations. But seeing what she gives the girls, what she provides to them, the space that she makes for them, I couldn't be any happier. So I'm giving a plug to her. If anyone is looking for a performance coach out there who has knowledge of the game, Coach Jennifer McCann is also great to work with. And some, what do we call that? Some headline news today is I think she's taken over track and field for Campo.
Yeah, that's great.
That
Campo's getting a good one, so.
Yeah, Rick was going to Highland, and so having Jen step in, and even though Rick is leaving, they're getting a high-quality coach who's also worked with Bianca in the past. Thinking about that, though, is what advice do you have for young runners or their parents who want to stay in the sport and keep performing?
I would say do multiple sports as long as you can up until like maybe middle school. And this isn't just for running. I think it's good to have multiple sport athlete to have different seasons. You're working different athletic abilities. Running especially is a tough sport. So you don't want to, if you get into that too early, it can be a grind. If you do happen to be a runner, I would say at a young age, and that's your main sport, I would encourage parents to encourage different events. So not just every week you're doing the mile or the 2 mile. Maybe you throw them in some sprints for fun, get a PR in the 200. Even if you're a distance runner, those also do help the 800 and the mile. Change it up so you're not doing the same event week after week after week, because then you just get burned out. You might find that you like shorter stuff, or like I said, shorter stuff can build and help the longer stuff. But yeah, change it up, multiple sports, keep it fun. There's a long time to go from being a kid all the way to graduating high school.
Yeah, I had one senior who graduated at Williamsville, but only ran the 800 for like 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah, and so he ran the mile this year, I think, for the first time, and the 32, which he didn't do bad in the first 32. It was early in the season. He ran a low 10, and I think if we had, and he was like, I don't like distance running, but I think if he would have given it a chance over the years, he could have developed into having that high-quality 8, 16, and 32 as well.
Like you said earlier, about you got to stay away from that I want to champion at 9 years old mentality. And I know that can be hard, because if you're a competitive person, competitive parent, you kind of you can want that. But I'd stay away from that. Just to have that long-term approach, keep it fun, never yell at a kid at 9 years old. I mean, unless they're like goofing off. But for a performance-based result, like no. Get them to say, did you try your best? Give them a hug, move on. You're grounded because you ran slow or something, or you don't get to go to the restaurant.
We were actually laughing about that. We had lunch with my cousin for Memorial Day, and we were talking about an old track meet, and I don't even remember who the coach it was or who the athlete was, but he was like, you better get moving or you're going to lose your PlayStation today.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And I think that's one of the things with Huron is with the older kids, we could dial in the paces and the times, and you got an elite group of individuals to pace off of. But with the younger ones, I just try to focus on form, breathing. finding that one pace where if we're doing threshold where our little ones aren't dying out and they can start the workout the way they completed it, and that way they're progressing. So that's one thing I like to focus on. And with Williamsfield, Paul's fast enough to run with our varsity boys, and Crystal is a great runner as well. So I think where Crystal and I shine is working with the newbies and then also the mid-pack, while Paul can dial in the paces and working with them on the faster stuff. We'll be involved in the plan, but I just don't have the turnover right now and would like to get back there. So hopefully.
In the fall, you get that turnover.
I committed already. What advice do you coach for young runners and parents as well?
I mean, very similar. And I actually have recently started working with a 9-year-old who did the Mesa Marathon. So my first question was like,
The full
marathon, yes.
Crazy.
So my first thing was, man, I wonder if these parents are really pushing this. Turns out, no. I mean, he just really wanted to run a marathon, and he wants to do more. So my advice was, and of course, wants to run all the time. So I'm like, okay, 3 to 4 days a week, just run, mostly easy. We meet once a week for a little harder workout, but it's not that hard. And honestly, wanted to do another marathon very soon. I said, no, just maybe maybe next year for Mesa. So the whole idea of, yes, look, you love running. If it continues to be that way, you've got years, decades maybe. Just take it slow, progress. And that's my big thing with any new runner is you have to progress gently, slowly, and slowly add miles, slowly add intensity. Otherwise, you'll get burnt out, hurt, and just overdone. So, yeah, that's my big thing is just ease in and progressively build.
That's great. Thank you both for your perspectives on that. And what's one advice? So we got cross country coming up, so you're going to have some freshmen coming in, maybe some newer runners. What's one piece of advice or multiple pieces of advice that you give to new runners who are starting off in the game and they may be discouraged from seeing some of the faster kids doing their workouts? So what would you tell those kids?
Similar to what we've said, just you have to ease in. And I just kind of warn them in that if you do too much too soon, trust me, you're going to have all kinds of pains everywhere and you're going to get burnt out. You have to be patient with yourself. They've been running for years. That's part of the reason where they're at. Be patient. It'll come. You need to consistently build work. And the more you get to know them, the more they trust you and the more they're like, okay, I'll back down. But once again, you want to see that hunger, but you have to just talk to them and just make sure they understand the process of it's building blocks all the way from now till the end of your high school career or beyond. Some people, they keep on running. For a lot of my athletes, I hope they keep running in college and keep competing. They love it. Why not? So that's another 4 years typically. So they have got a lot of time.
Yeah, I think one of the focuses for me as a coach, and sometimes I need to back myself out, is knowing that not everyone wants to run collegiately. I had 2 of my seniors who can definitely run collegiately and had some offers, and I would push them all the time, be like, hey, you got to do this, you have to do this. And no, they didn't want to run, but it was so shocking to me. Like, I love this sport. And I grew up in Globe, Miami, and I was a decent baseball player and had some offers to play some JC ball, and I ended up playing club ball down here for a while. But if I had that opportunity to go to the next level, I think what held me back is I had an offer from Yuma, Arizona Western out there, but I was a mama's boy. And even though it's just Yuma from Globe, I didn't want to be 3 hours away from my mom and my dad. And so I moved down here and went to MCC. And it all worked out because I met my wife, and then the rest is history. But I just think that as a coach, I got to temper it down. And I think it was Furman who said this on his podcast was,
I was just going to say that. I remember he said, we got to figure out why they're here. Some are here to be great. Some are here just for the social, get a little exercise and have fun, and then how to coach them.
And I think that's what I love about talking with you guys, talking with other coaches, and just being part of that community is just getting an education. Sitting here talking to you guys today and talking to Logan and Coach Jen I'm getting a free education right here. And so just knowing that we're all in this together as coaches to see our athletes improve. And It's not ACP versus Highland or Williamsfield. Like, yeah, they're going to compete when they compete, but at the end of the day, we're all coaches who just want to see these kids do better.
Yeah. And also, I think, grow as a person. It's great to get fast times, but the whole sport atmosphere, as a coach, we want to make sure we're instilling good character, they're developing as a person, becoming a better all-around person for society. And I think if done right, that can really extremely benefit them long term.
Yeah, and again, I've never coached sprinters or jumpers or anything. I just know the distance community is usually a pretty good community. And I was talking with my athlete, Nathan, and he said that he had to hold blocks for the CAA meet for the sprinters. And he was like, Coach, they were cussing at each other, talking smack. And then we get on the line for the mile, and it's like, hey, how's it going, guys? Hey, I hope you have a good run.
Yeah, yep.
And I can't say that's with all. It's just, it was his experience, but I know distance runners generally are.
Yeah,
we'll usually finish something like bend over, give a little fist bump.
Yes,
it's like
yes.
just that you appreciate the guy next to you grinding with you.
It's something special to suffer with other competitors along the way. There really is. It's just it's fun, painful, and.
Yeah, one of my favorite stories is I was doing the Mesa Marathon. I was coming back from meniscus surgery, and I qualified for Boston, but I think I tore my meniscus because I did one of those downhill marathons, the Rebel series, and was just training downhill all the time. Yeah. I was driving up to the Pinal Mountains in Globe, and my mom would drive me all the way to the top, and I'd run all the way to the bottom, and I was doing that weekend after weekend going to Usury. And so I think my meniscus just couldn't take it. I ran Mesa Marathon, and my goal was to go with the 220 group, or 320, 220.
220.
Yeah.
Let's go.
The 320 group for 20 miles, and then I was just going to back it down and just coast in. And I think at mile 16, I was with the group, and the flagger went down. Yeah, he was like, I'm cramping, man. I can't make it. And been running with them for a while, and he handed me the stick. And he's like, you got to lead everybody in. And I'm just coming off of surgery. I've not done no speed work or anything. And he's like, you can do it. Just run the pace that we're running right now. And I remember passing a few people, and some guy got mad at me and was like, you're way too fast. And I was just looking at the clock, and I was like, I'm on. And we ended up coming in 324. I keep saying 224. That's what I want to be. But we came in at 324, nice. 52. So it was pretty good. But coming back, there was a few people that ran with me, and I think we're friends till this day. I don't want to call them out in the podcast, but we still talk. We still text each other. But we had that camaraderie of just grinding it out, and that motivation of like, you can do it, man, even knowing that I didn't know if I could do it at the time. So it's just fun to see with distance runners. And I know that the culture that we have at Huron is, it's not about, it's performing is great, but we want the kids to come in or the athletes to come in and just use each other to get better. So it's not X versus Y or A versus B. It's we're a collective group who's going to come in. What excites you most about where the sport's heading, Derek?
Well, as a track nerd, this is the best. The U.S. distance running is at an all-time high. That honestly excites me. So we had the Cole Hawker, Nagoose, medals, Kenneth Rooks in the steeple. So for me, as a track fan and obviously U.S. fan, this is the best it's ever been. So that's exciting for me. And then, like I said, all the times are getting faster. It can be a little scary when you have two kids who eventually want to run in college. But, yeah, it's a good time for U.S. running for sure.
And anything from you, Coach Nate?
No, I mean, I agree. It's great to see just the performances. And also, you have the elite runners, and they'll be competing against each other, and you'll see camaraderie, and once in a while there'll be banter back and forth to each other. It's just good for the sport, and good to see the friendly competition, even among the elite athletes. And, yeah, USA is definitely – USA has done – very well sprints in the past and jumps and different parts of it, but distance running has always kind of lacked a little bit. So it's just good to see that we're up there competing and doing well.
Yeah, Grant Fisher, I forgot to mention, he's on fire. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I think it's so cool, too, that we have Grant Fisher's coach here in the Valley, too, who is 100% accessible, always willing to talk. I think I said this in one other podcast, but Ty Lee went up to him and asked him about the Olympics, pulled out his phone, started showing all her video, and like the excitement on his face to see that a young athlete was excited as well. It was really cool to see. And I know I've talked to him a few times at the meets, and he's very open to talk about what they're doing because he wants to see Arizona as a whole get better.
Yeah.
And Coach Furman over there, you couldn't have a better 1-2 combo.
Yeah, he is making Arizona better because the Hamilton was so good that, I mean, and like Nate said, you can see what they're doing on Strava. And it's like, well, they're doing 14 miles at 6:10 pace. Maybe you might want to do a tiny bit yourself or else you'll be left in the dust. But no, they had a really good year. And so I think him being here and having Hamilton so good has raised the level for sure.
Yeah, it inspires other athletes, other schools to do the same. Okay, keep up, let's go. So it's good, friendly competition or that inspiration that, okay, as a group, as a state, let's continue to rise up.
Yeah, and I think for me, I need to educate myself more on distance running outside of the East Valley because I know a lot of the Mesa schools, and you got Coach Ronnie at Mountain View, who's done an amazing job with his program. And then you got Steve at Castile and everyone else in this area. Basha is doing great with their distance runners as well. Boston ran well. Their 800s were on fire this year with Kayla Lark and Connor. Trying to think too. Audrey
got the 800 school record. Yeah,
exactly.
There's
So
a lot of good coaches right now.
Yeah, and a lot of good programs too. So it's good to see this leveling up from everybody in this community of let's just push each other and see what we could do. So we're up on an hour and 15 minutes. That went pretty fast. But what's next for you, Derek, whether it's a coach or a runner or a mentor?
In the immediate future for coaching, I don't know if you've heard of the Marathon Project. Ben Rosario, from the former NAZ elite coach, during COVID they had it in a controlled environment, I guess, but he's bringing that back. So it's going to be by Rawhide, by the casino there in December. It's super expensive, like $500, but they're offering a pro sort of environment with like you get your own bottles on the course, and there's pacers at all different levels where there normally aren't. So there's a 40, 250, a three flat pacer. Normally you wouldn't get that. So coaching a bunch of people that are going to do that. So they'll probably kick into gear here towards the end of the summer. But it's going to be kind of a big one with a lot of good athletes doing that.
Yeah, didn't they do that a couple years ago in Chandler?
Yeah, I actually volunteered doing Twitter for them, but it was a loop, so it's like a 5-mile loop. And they're going after fast times. I think the men ran 2:08 or 2:09, and the women 2:20 or 2:21 was the winning time.
Yeah, that's flying. And same question to you is what's next for you, Coach, as a runner or mentor? I know you got a lot of projects going on, whether it's your personal running, coaching high school, coaching adults.
Yeah, I think for coaching-wise, the high school group is a big focus right now, and it's the summer building into the cross country. And I really would love to see the boys, we're in Division II, win this year. So last year we got 4th. And I think the year before that, I've been coaching there for 1 year. So the year before that, I think they got 20th or 21st. So a huge improvement last year. And I just think that they're hungry enough and they really want to try to take down Flagstaff and win Division II, which would be really hard to do. But
Flagstaff has a good program.
I think it's doable. So, and this whole time, it's just creating a depth of the team where I want to have just a lot of guys and a lot of girls like running really fast times in together as a team. And so that's definitely, so I want to see the girls improve from last year, and then the guys, if we could potentially win that, and they want that. I think for me personally, it's just fun to stay in shape. I love running and love training people, train with them. I've always, as a coach, just run with the athletes because you get your workout in too. Plus, it helps them, and it's fun. You can push each other. So for me personally, it's just trying to stay pretty fit and kind of tease the guys that keep up with the old guys.
Keep up with Sam.
That's not going to happen. That's
getting tough.
In cross country, it'd be. Last year I did the Twilight race, and I got a community race. So my big thing with them was like, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to beat all your times. So you better respond and beat me. And they did. And then one did that night, and then a few others did later in the season. So, again, this year, it'd be nice to kind of lay out a nice time and be like, Coach still got it.
Yeah.
So
Did
you guys better still get it.
I was going to say, did you jump into that Fountain Hills coaches race last year?
No, we did not go to that race last year. I think we might be this year, though.
The coach's 1K.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
You would do good in there. So I did it my first year coaching at the high school level. And I'm just in my coaching gear, my Hokas, and I walk up to the line, and there's younger coaches out there in full gear, spikes, doing full warm-ups, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm about to get lit. And so I went out hard too, and pretty fast, but it's a rolling
Up and
incline,
down,
and yeah, I wasn't ready for that. So I ended up doing okay. I beat a few people.
Well, Coach Furman at the Scottsdale Distance Classic, they have a 1 mile coaches race too. And of course, Coach Furman lines up. I'm like, oh, great. And then everybody's got their spikes on. So I just started teasing a bunch of tryhards. I just had some regular shoes. And then Furman throws down a 428 or something. I'm like, you jerk.
I think I said that on his podcast. I bowed out of a USATF race because I saw
because
him
you
on the
did.
start
I listened to that. I know.
I didn't want to get lapped on a 3K.
Yeah, it's just super, super talented and works very hard and has got some very impressive times to show for it.
And
I always wanted to win the Gilbert half because it went right by my house, and I'd be in good shape, and then show up and then see Furman there, and that's all it takes, one guy, and now I can't win my local race.
We talk about Furman, but he's such a good human being and great coach, and I love that he loves to build community too. So, but yeah, I guess I am going to commit too, so I'll either tap into both of you guys for a coaching plan because I can't say it and not do it because that's not the type of person I am. So be looking out for me to reach out to you guys.
We run very close to your house, so.
I know, not too far. Any last thoughts or anything that we missed or didn't cover before we wrap this up? Anything on the top of your mind, whether that's pro running, high school running, state championships, anything that we didn't cover, just feel free to plug it in right now.
I think it just in general, it's just like we talked about before, is for any runner out there, just believe in your God-given talents and believe in yourself and the training that you've done, and it will happen. And just be patient in the process, because every runner, all of us, have had times where it's not going as well as we want it to, a plateau or a setback or injury. No matter how well you train, you can still get a sprain, get an injury, whatever it might be. And it's okay. You just got to press on and endure through it. So in a race, you have to endure through the pain. But even in training in general through the years, it's endurance. It's a long road in the same direction. And the times, you want your times to be better. But as a person, just building discipline while running is extremely a great quality for a person to have. So
yeah, and some people say that getting to the starting line on a marathon is a victory in itself.
Honestly, yeah, absolutely.
Preferably healthy and motivated.
Yeah. Yeah, if you get to that start line and you're like already, I don't want to do this, or
one funny story that kind of goes back to the questions about shaping our coaching is Nate and I were training for a marathon, CIM.
Yes.
I don't know, this is probably 6 or 7 years ago now. We were both in really good shape, hammering long runs together and just loving it, and just the perfect training partners. We were doing stuff like, we would say, like, if we just did 3 more miles at 7-minute pace, we'd run 2:40, and we were doing that over and over and over again. Well, what happened was we left our race on the loop where we were training. So Nate ended up crashing and burning in that one. I pulled out with a hamstring injury at mile 15, and we both talked about it, and we were like, we just went way too hard in training. So that actually helped us learn about our own training, but going forward coaching, just like, you don't always have to knock it out of the park every week. Sometimes, yeah, but you don't have to do it every week.
If we raced 2 months before that race, we would have.
Yeah,
we probably threw down a 229, just saying.
Yeah, and that reminds me, too, of, you said something earlier, is like when you're feeling good, that's when maybe you need to dial things in. And I think about that with recovery. So for me, when I'm not having any body aches or pains, I stop doing recovery because I'm like, oh, I'm all healed. Yeah. But I think that's when you need to do it the most.
Lean into it.
Yep.
Well, thank you both. I appreciate your time. Coach Nate Rath from ACP and Derek from the Delancey Loopers. Well, you can't find Coach Nate on social media. And that's great. I love that about you. But you can find the ACP, track and field, and cross country Instagrams, which I'll post in the links. And then also you could find Derek at the Delancey Loopers, and I will also put that online. But again, thank you guys so much for your time today, and I would love to have you guys. I keep saying this is I want to start intermixing groups that I have as well, because I just think there's so much good conversation and knowledge out there that we could build more of a community on for all of our athletes. So with that being said, thank you for listening today, and we will catch you on the next episode of the Run All Day podcast.